Hello, scrappers and recyclers. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to all of you from around the world. It is great to be here. This is Shark Scrapper from Shark Scrapper Live, where every week we talk about things that are going on in the precious metals, industrial metals. We have a safety factor that we throw in, and then some wild card topic of all the things that are going on in our world. It is great to be here. I love it talking with y'all. I look forward to this every Sunday. Scrapping Irish is first in there saying hello. Electronic Scrapper, great to have you here. Roger at CU Scrapping. Angry Blacksmith, welcome. Great to have you here. E-Waste Mike, also great to have you here, sir. I look forward to having a really fun hour with everyone today. It's been a crazy week. I have gotten almost zero scrapping done because I've been in the house almost every day this week. We had a leak that we discovered about a week or so ago. I've been arguing with insurance companies. I've had remediation companies, contractors, and plumbers that I've been babysitting all week long. It's just been a really crazy week this week. So I'm looking forward to this hour so that I can settle down and just enjoy it. Yes, I did, Mike. I called you sir because, I'm being polite shark right now. Oh, man. Well, I tell you what, we are going to get right into our discussion for today. And that's going to be the uh, precious metal that so many of us just absolutely love. And it's a really favorite precious metal for so many of us because it's the precious metal that a lot of us can afford. We're talking silver, of course. Silver's at 32 and a half ish right now. And again, we are looking at the APMEX website. I am not sponsored by APMEX. I get no compensation at all. But hey, APMEX, if you're out there, give me a call. um, I always recommend that people have gold and silver as physical parts of their investment portfolio. I do not recommend paper because the paper certificates, well, they're really not worth the paper they're printed on. But if you own physical gold and silver, if you have it in your possession, well, then that is your hedge. You can sell it at a local coin shop. You can take it to a pawnbroker. You can sell it back to AppMex or Kitco or JM Bullion, any of those folks, and be able to get some money back, maybe even make a profit depending upon when you bought and what your premium was. So I always recommend having some of it in your portfolio. AppMex is just one of the businesses that I have used to buy and sell my physical gold and silver. Now, I saw some posts this week from some folks who bought silver through Walmart, and it was it comes from sometimes it'll come from places like AppMex, Walmart being a third party vendor. But the videos that I saw this week, folks got ripped off because Walmart used another dealer, not AppMex, on that particular sale, and the gold, or excuse me, the silver round was actually fake. So I am still very, very trepidatious about buying silver through Walmart's website. If you're going to buy your silver, your gold, just go right to AppMex or Kitco or JM Bullion. You have a much greater probability that it will be real because they're screening it themselves. Their reputation's on the line. And if you can prove that it's fake, they're going to be good about helping you recover it. Now, in fairness, according to the videos that I saw, Walmart did turn around and refund that person's money, but why take the risk? I mean, come on, really. It's these people claim that they're getting it for a lot less, sometimes, at spot or less, but that should be your warning right there, right? All right, anyway, silver for the 24-hour period is up, as you can see if we look at the 3 day We also see that it's up. We had a very interesting kind of flow here for silver. It was on a gradual rise here, and then we got a much better climb coming out near the end of the 3 day period. We take a look at the week and we see, there we go. We take a look at the week and, well, we had a little bit of a dip here. We do this. So we had a little bit of a dip, not much to speak of, and then we've been climbing out here. And then when we go for the month, we have this. This was the dip that you saw where it dropped off. We talked about this last week. We talked about how the tariffs were giving some concerns, a lot of turmoil, and that was kind of an interesting twist that silver dropped off in that case. Um, if you forget that conversation, you can always go back and look at it from last week. But now gold and silver are starting to climb back up again. Let's take a look at the 3 month period. You'll see that silver was already generally climbing nicely as markets and people were nervous about what was going on in the financial markets. Here's that crash we talked about associated with the tariff announcements, and then it's been climbing back up again as the hold got put in place and investors are doing what investors do. And that is, and we're going to talk about that when we come right over here to our trading economics chart on silver. And you can see right here, we're going to pop into the candlesticks. We're going to zoom into this later period. Here's the dip. Here's silver climbing out of that dip. And the reason that all of that is going on is uncertainty again. We see from the language in the summary statement from Trading Economics that silver gained on the last 3 trades. That's what we see in the candlestick charts there. As broad-based weakness in the U.S. dollar and a renewed economic concerns fueled demand for alternative assets, safe havens, silver being one of those safe havens. The metal also benefited from rising haven flows. That's what they mean there, the safe havens. And the dollar losing some of its safe haven appeal. Why? Because some of the nations that hold a lot of the U.S. debt, like China and Japan, were threatening to sell off bonds. That created a problem in the bond market. This large scale global economic kind of thing gets really complicated, but a lot of investors decided, well, we're going to go with silver and gold instead of bonds. And so there's a lot of uncertainty. When there's uncertainty, people go to silver and gold. We see here that the White House announced the tariffs on Chinese goods have reached 145%. We know that the Chinese are retaliating. They're at 84%. And there's also softer than expected U.S. core inflation data, which could lower interest rates. So what all of that leads us to get to is after silver crashed from the announcement, it's been climbing back up. And that's good, right? I mean, especially if any of us bought silver when the prices had crashed, you have a chance now to recover some of that investment. Let's go back to the line chart and let's go back. There we are in line chart. Let's go to we're on the year here, and let's go up and take a look at the forecast. And we'll draw your attention, as always, to this part of the chart where we see that Trading Economics and other investors are looking for silver to continue to climb as a safe haven through these uncertain times, getting back at just around 36. Let's see what they're actually saying is that it will get to around 35 and 3/4. So we're going to see silver climb back up again. Now, is this a time where you could buy some silver in anticipation of this climb? Wow, that would be really tough. I would be very, very, very careful trying to play that game because you really need to pay attention to the premiums on the silver that you're going to buy. I mean, if you can get a very low premium on the silver, then you might be in a position where you could eke out a profit on anything that you buy right now. Um, Silver will probably go over that 36 figure if the uncertainty remains in place here for a while. So you could bet on silver getting into the 40-ish range again. But I'm not going to be buying any silver right now. I am holding my silver to see if those prices get back up into the 40-ish range before I even think about selling any of my silver. All right, let's see. What has everybody got to say about silver and the silver market and their week? Let's see. We've had a lot of people come in while I've been talking, saying hi to everybody. So let's see. Scrooge McDuckin has joined us. Go Hard Scrapping is in the house. Welcome. Great to have you here. Anfield in the Road is here. Anfield Road Layout. Great to have you here. Ian Matthews, welcome, sir. Plain Scrappers in the house. Everybody's saying hi and stuff. I don't see any silver comments yet as I'm going through. Michael T. Shoot Studios is here. Welcome, Michael. William Wallert is in the house. Welcome, William. Mike's Meltdown. Okay, Mike's got the first comment that I saw on silver, and he is spot on there. Silver premiums increased, so there wasn't much of a savings available. You're absolutely right, Mike, and that's a very important warning for a lot of people. Those premiums, when there's uncertainty in the economy, when people are going to safe havens, the premium, there's no reason to discount the premiums, so the premiums can go up as well. So, yeah, there isn't much savings to be had with the silver. Uh, ba, 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 ba. Let's see. How do I say this one? Stalker Rob 20. Stalker Rob 20. Okay, welcome, welcome. Does that mean I have a stalker? Huh, interesting. I don't think I've ever had a stalker before. uh, yep, Williams saying that prices are back up to kind of where they were in January. You can see that here in the chart. Um, this was October. The last that was the highs. I'm sorry. Here we are right here, and that was where were we? January, February timeframe. So we're kind of right back at the beginning of the year here. All right, and we're doing a little more folks saying hello, and uh, looking for comments on silver. Going through the comments right now. That's all. All right. Well, interesting world that we live in right now, and if you've got silver, hang on to it. Look for those markets to recover so that maybe you can sell some of your silver and make a little bit on the side. All right. Well, video, our safety discussion today has an interesting source. As you all know, I go through the week and I see things that are going on, and that's what usually provides the topic for our safety discussion. Well, this one was a little bit unusual. Um, the And the source of it was actually not a safety fault or safety error. The source of this was actually a very good thing. So I want to bring your attention to something that went on for one of our good friends here. And so let me blow this up. Oops, blow that up. So I want to point out something on a recent video from our good friend Scrapping Irish. You'll notice up here, this video up here at the top. Let me do this to bring it to your attention right up there. That video right there. And the other thing that I want to bring your attention to is this 38,000 views. 38,000 views. Scrapping Irish kicking butt on the views. For a scrapping kind of video, this is fantastic, and it's a real good video. I've watched it, I think, 4 times now. If you haven't watched it, I encourage you to take a look at it. But here's the thing: in the video, Irish talks about copper chloride, and copper chloride being his preferred uh, tool for getting the little gold fingers and Enig and stuff like that to free itself from the charts, from the boards and such. So um, I got to thinking, because when Irish does these, he is very careful about safety as well. And you see him put on the gloves, and he'll have a respirator on and such. So I just thought, you know what? Let's look at copper chloride. Let's just see what is the safety concerns associated with copper chloride. Um, and it turns out that you do need to be careful with copper chloride. Think about it. I mean, it's hydrochloric acid that you have dissolved some copper into. So um, it would make sense that there would be some safety concerns there, right? So copper chloride can burn or irritate the skin. And if you get it in your eyes, it can damage your eyes. It can be a nose, throat, and lung irritant if you inhale the fumes. Um, and I'm going to touch on that here a little bit more. If you ingest it, it can cause nausea, vomiting, and diarrhea. So don't drink the stuff. Um, and it was interesting because there's a couple of very interesting things that they talk about in repeated or long-term exposure. One is it can thicken the skin. So you can imagine if you're one of these folks that doesn't wear gloves and you get enough of it over time, you're going to get really thick skin. Not sure what the issue is there, but this one really got my attention. Repeated inhalation of the fumes can thin the lining in your sinuses and actually lead to a hole forming in the bone that's up in your inner nose there. So that would be kind of, I would think, unpleasant. Um, the various safety sites that I went to and looked at said that copper chloride has not been evaluated as a cancer causing agent, reproductive challenge, problem. They haven't evaluated. It doesn't mean that it isn't. It just means that they haven't evaluated it as one of those things. It can also cause damage to the liver and the kidneys. So, what do you do? So, this is common sense safety going on here now. As you see in Scrapping Irish's videos, he wears gloves. And he usually has a long sleeve shirt on, but that's usually because it's chilly in Ireland, I think. So if you're going to be using copper chloride, then wear gloves, wear eye protection, work in a well ventilated area. Irish is always working outside when he does his these things at his place. If you're not going to be doing it outside, then you want to have some sort of exhaust system set up. Um, you know, Fans kind of are like the minimum that you would think about using as a exhaust system. You can get dedicated exhaust systems, a fume hood. Um, those can get really expensive, and respirator is also an option if you don't have good ventilation. Maybe you want to have the respirator and good ventilation, right? Because respirators, they don't produce air to breathe; they just filter the air that you are breathing. All right, so wear your PPE, good ventilation, or exhaust the fumes. Whether they're filtered and recirculated or exhausted outside. Try not to breathe in the fumes. So copper chloride, it's you want to take some protection against it, and it's not terrible like some of the products that are used in gold refining, but it definitely is something that you want to take common sense protection for. So let's see. What kind of comments have we had relative to? Um, let's see. Looking for comments on our copper chloride here. We might get some late silver comments coming in here too. Uh, and we'll also see if anybody has joined us. Ed Weber has joined us. Welcome, Ed. Great to have you here. Okay, I'm there. So I found the right spot where I left off. Now we're going through. We got some folks chatting back and forth about a few things. Mr. Matthews is making some comments back and forth with a few folks. Guy Robertson, welcome. Great to have you here, Guy. Metallic Maniac. What a cool name. Metallic Maniac. Welcome. Great to have you here, man. Um, nope, I have not heard from Mario. Um, uh, okay, so Richard's making the comment about copper chloride. Keep it away from anything metal that you care about. Yeah, because it dissolves metal. So, yep, that's a definite. Um, oh, this is now roast scrapping Irish. Oh man, yeah, and you know what? I didn't tell him I was going to do this too. So right now he's probably like, "Oh, gee, thanks, Shark. Way to go, man." Irish makes the point that copper chloride can also make you go bald. You Irish, I did not read that anywhere, but given where the comment's coming from, it's hard to argue. Hard to argue with that. Um, oh my! So Mike's meltdown says that that's a no for making tea. If you're going to drink the tea, then yeah, absolutely. You don't want to be yeah you don't want to use it. That's a definite no. Don't do that. Oh man, it's not good for coffee either. By the way. All right, so that was a little bit of fun, but also serious. If you are doing gold recovery and refining, please remember the acids that you're using can be dangerous. Use proper PPE. Just be careful with it. All right, we don't want to lose anybody in the process of doing what it is we do. All right. Well, our industrial metal discussion here today is another good one. Uh, and, some interesting stuff going on. We're talking aluminum, of course. And yeah, we're not going to like this too much, guys. Um, Aluminum crashed, of course, and then started coming back up. Let's get the candlesticks going. Let's zoom in here. Here's February, March. So we have aluminum just crashing from March on. And why is this happening? Well, the tariff discussions, the tariff issues, brings a lot of economic uncertainty. And aluminum is a key industrial metal. But if businesses are uncertain about what they have to make, then they're not going to be needing to make a lot of, buy a lot of aluminum. And so you have orders slowing down, you have plants slowing down in the making of things that are consuming aluminum, and that drives the prices down. So we see that it kind of turned around here. A couple of days ago when the tariff pause gets announced and aluminum prices start to recover a little bit. But the reality here is that there's a lot of uncertainty going on. So you're going to have some challenges going on with aluminum. Now, aluminum was already challenged anyway. Remember in our previous discussions on aluminum, we talked about that there was overproduction of aluminum in places like China, so that was lowering prices, and the market itself was already not really strong. So these kind of influences further challenge what's going on. If we go back here to, we take in the whole chart, we go back to the line chart, and we go up and take a quick read on the summary statement from Trading Economics. By the way, I love this site. A lot of good information that you can get here. Futures plummeted to 2,400 a ton in April. By the way, that's a metric ton, TONNE metric ton. Lowest in 8 months, tracking sharp declines from the global extension exchanges as the trade war with U.S. and China paired expectations of manufacturing demand. No surprise. This is what we've been talking about. We see, they talk some more about what the tariffs are and stuff like that. So I don't need to read all of that to you. Let us take a look at what the forecast looks like for aluminum, and boy, howdy, that's not good. That's not good at all. So the folks at Trading Economics are saying, yeah, it's not going to get good, folks. It's going to drop even more. And I have other sources I've looked at that corroborate that same thing. We're not looking at a real good, healthy market for aluminum here. So if you've got some aluminum, I wouldn't hold on to it. Right? I'd check with your yard, of course, but you're probably not going to do much better than what you're doing right now, unless there's some huge change that goes on in the economy, in the trade war, the tariff situation. So, and even if we turn off even if the trade language cools down, tariffs and trade war cools down, and markets get a little more settled, well, aluminum was still having a hard time. So, I would say just keep when you get enough aluminum to take it in, take it in. Don't don't stockpile it because that means you're just going to be hanging on to it for a long time before the prices turn back around. Use it as a cash flow metal if you as you can, and just keep moving it. If we look at the 5-year chart here, we can see that aluminum is hasn't. I mean, it hasn't done great. We're kind of right now. We're looking at prices that we saw back in 2023 and such. So it's not terrible, but it's not great. And it's going to get down to uh, levels that, well, these were levels that we were used to dealing with back in 2023. We had a nice ride here for a while, and now it's coming back down. So just treat your aluminum as a cash flow metal, and keep taking it in, because I just don't. It just doesn't look like we're going to get anything great out of it anytime soon. So let's see. What are you all thinking about aluminum? Or you may have had some other comments here. Let's see. Excuse me. This is why I keep coffee on hand, because I get these tickles in my throat while I'm talking like this. All right. Let's see. Metallic Maniac. I'm not exactly sure what you mean here. Unmarked silver sold for aluminum. Um, I think if you're suggesting that this is one of the ways that the thieves can take advantage of people by saying it's a piece of silver when it's actually just a shiny piece of aluminum. Um, they might get away with that as folks when folks are new at this and they've never held the two in their hand. But if you've held silver and aluminum in your hand, I think most experienced scrappers would be able to tell really quick. Oh, wait a minute, that's just too light to be silver. That's got to be aluminum, or something else, because that's just not heavy enough to be aluminum. I think, if I'm understanding your comment correctly there. La, 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 la. Uh, Yeah, Mike, you're right, man. It's like we're not going to find silver just laying all over the place. Although back when I was street scrapping, I was surprised um, at the things that I would find. Like I actually found silver, silverware. It was either people that didn't understand that they had thrown away uh, sterling silver. Maybe they didn't know it was sterling silver, but I was surprised that I would sometimes find, think silver kind of stuff when I was street scrapping. Not very often, granted, and usually what we do find is aluminum. So yeah, yeah, very good point. Uh, bu- 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 Aluminum is like tin. It's abundant. Get it built into a pile and move it. There you go. Get yourself some of it. However, whatever you use, whether it's a bin load, a pile load, a truckload, whatever, and sell it. Um, yeah, spot on there, man. Um, yeah, finding silver is like finding gold. It happens. It does happen. Absolutely does happen. I think any of us who have been scrapping for a while, we know that happens. It's probably happened to us. Ed says aluminum prices are still holding for now at his yard. Cool. Yeah, I'm not saying that the yards are going to drop their prices right away. They may hold for a while here, because right now we saw that aluminum kind of came up just a touch. So yeah, it's. I'm just saying that we're not going to see anything great coming out of aluminum. So best case scenario, prices hold, and we can get it sold. Let's see. Metal Maniac is saying aluminum prices were 80 to a buck 25 a pound. Yep. Um, And let's see. Yeah, that was 20 years. I cried at 75. Yeah, yeah. No. Uh, Ed, got to keep my coffee buzz going. Yeah, I'm here. I'm with you, man. You know, retired Navy. If I don't have coffee in my hand or somewhere near me, forget it, man. I'm lost. I don't know what the hell is going on. Mr. Matthews is saying, well, I had a carload of cast aluminum, was offered 1050 per ton last Friday. Couldn't make the yard in time. Went a week later and got 950 a ton. Uh, so that cost you 3.6. You know, timing can be everything. It's like, you got these the sometimes timing can help you, and sometimes the timing can hurt you. Right, 1 week can make a huge difference. But sometimes it works in your favor and the prices go up, and so you make some. Right now, that's not the case. And unfortunately, you paid the price for not being able to get out there. Happens to all of us, man. Happens to all of us. Uh, Metallic Mike is now getting 45, 50, 60 cents. Yeah, it's going down, man. Good down. Plain Scrapper is saying it's time to sell his aluminum cans, his sheet, and his extruded, his cast. Yep, it is about that time. Daniel, welcome. And he's saying that he finds silver and gold everywhere, necklaces, earrings, candlesticks. If you're in the city, you will find it all. It's interesting. I would, when I was street scrapping, if there was a big house clean out or something like that, I would always look in the little boxes and the drawers of the furniture and things like that, because frequently people, they lose an earring or a necklace gets misplaced, a ring ends up in a box somewhere and somebody forgot about it. So it is amazing that you can actually find some reasonably good gold and silver when you're, especially if you're a street scrapper, and you're getting into these piles that they got busy, they didn't look through everything, and it's just sitting there waiting for you. It happens, absolutely. Daniel, welcome, great to have you here, man. Yes, Ian makes a very good comment that space is worth more at times than the stuff that you are holding on to. And in Mr. Matthews's case, that's extremely true. Um, Not only is space worth more, but in his case, it might save his life because he won't get crushed under the pile when it falls on him. Sorry, Ian, I had to go there. Oh, man. Let's see. Um, oh man, very very funny, very funny. Oh wait a minute, I clicked on it twice there. Um, yeah, I don't know. This shark guy. You got to watch out for him for sure. But Dirt Rider, I will tell you, just for old time's sake, no more wire coat hangers. Oh man. All right. So good discussion about aluminum there and what's happening in the world of aluminum. Keep your aluminum moving. Don't necessarily let it accumulate too much. The only other option that you might have for aluminum, if you have the capability to do this, is that maybe you could melt it into artistical things. Like Mr. Matthews is actually a metal artiste, and sell those things as pieces of art instead of just aluminum. Anyway, that's an option if you want to get into it. Um, so let's see. Daniel is asking a very interesting question here. Um, Part of my scrapping business was selling scrap pallets. Both of his buyers stopped buying the pallets. Is anyone else having the same problem? So, if any of you are out there that sold pallets, please let Daniel know. I can't help you with that because I never sold pallets, um, and I can't imagine that there's much money in that right now because they're stacking up behind the shark cage like crazy. The two businesses on either side of me, they get weekly deliveries of one or two pallets, and they're just piling up back there. And I would have thought that if there was money in those pallets, that somebody would be back there picking them up. Um, so yeah, that one might be hard. Then again, I have seen trucks with trailers and pallets on them, so something's going on with pallets somewhere. But yeah, I don't think the market is what it used to be for scrap pallets. So anyway, but get in that might depend on where you're at too. So, uh, all right. Well, our it is time now to talk a little bit about. Um, I want to do a quick look at some stocks, and then we're going to uh, go take a look at the recent changes in tariffs. All right. So the first thing the stocks that I want to bring to your attention, and remember, I use a newsletter called the Value Line Investment Survey. They do not take any advertising, so all the numbers that you're going to see here are just straight data and analysis of the data. There's no hype or advertising concerns involved in. And I want to talk about these two stocks because these are companies that scrappers will know. You may have some of this in your hand right now. It's entirely possible. The first company that I want to talk about is Snap One. Their ticker symbol is SNA. Their dividend yield is not great, but not terrible at 2.7%. This data is effective the 4th of April. Their share price is a whopping $337.36. Good glory, man. That is expensive. But look at this. They are qualified as an E1 and a Div 0. So, what does that mean for those of you that are new here? I am a boring dividend investor. I don't, I'm not trying to play the buy low, sell high game. I'm not a day trader. So, what I'm trying to do is find very stable stocks that will give me some good dividend return. The way I do that is by looking at the last 17 years, and I want either their cash flow per share, earnings per share, or most importantly, their dividends per share to go up every year. Now, I will allow them one down year or a flat year and still be something that I would consider qualified. Snap On is qualified. As you can see here, their earnings per share increased every year for the last 17 years, except right here, 19 going into 20. Gee, what happened there? So they are an E1. That means they had one bad year. Their dividend per share went up every year for the last 17 years, so they're a Div 0. So that is really good. We look at this, we see that, here's their cash flow and their earnings going up, and then here's their dividends again going up. So that's the kind of company that is qualified. Now, am I going to buy the stock? No. For me, the stock is too rich, especially since they're only giving me 2.7% as a dividend. But some people really love Snap On. And there are other reasons that you might want to purchase Snap On because they are such a good, solid company and their cash flow and earnings go up pretty well. And that could mean that, in addition to getting your dividend, well, over time, 5, 10 years down the road, you're going to make some money when you sell the stock. So that's another reason to consider them. But for me, that reason doesn't apply. The other tool company that we frequently see, and many of us will have in our tool chest, is Stanley Black& Decker. Now, Stanley Black& Decker has a good yield at 4%. I really like companies that have 4 or more, 4.0 or more, as their dividend. Why? Because over the long haul, historically speaking, if you can make 4% or more, you're going to stay ahead of inflation. So and their stock price isn't terrible at 82. It's still a little bit on the rich side, but it's not terrible. Stanley Black& Decker is qualified as, let's do this. They are qualified as a Div 0, so their dividends have gone up every year for the last 17 years. So Stanley Black& Decker is someone that you might want to consider. Now, this chart would scare the bejesus out of you because you can see, right here where they crashed and, coming out of the pandemic. There were some other things that were going on here, right? We had the pandemic here in 1920, and then they made some mistakes. They goofed up, and now they're trying to climb back out from that. But I will say that they took care of their investors because they kept the dividends going up despite this error here. So that's something to think about. Now, am I going to invest in Stanley Black& Decker? No. Um, there, for me, there's a number of issues going on with Stanley Black& Decker that are not going to fit my portfolio. So no, I'm not going to. But I don't want to prejudge for all of you because each of you will have your own considerations for investing. Now, again, I really want to emphasize that I am not a licensed broker, investment counselor, financial counselor. So please use your due diligence. And if you're going to make any of these investments, please do some thorough research and understand why you're going to put this investment in your portfolio before you do it. Because don't come back and blame me if you buy these things and you don't like them. Not my fault. I try to warn you. I'm just trying to show you what might be worth consideration. Uh, um, so that those are a couple of tool stocks that we all that names that we're all going to recognize. They got reviewed this last week, so I wanted to bring them to your consideration. All right, now I wanted to also talk just a little bit about what's going on in the tariff situation right now. I joined the REMA tariff talk this last week. That's the Recycled Metals Association, Materials Association, excuse me, Materials Association, because they also do paper and plastics and stuff like that. So anyway, and it was kind of interesting. They've made it very clear that the pause is only on the reciprocal tariffs. So the 10% across the board tariffs are still in place, and that's on most products, including some recycled materials. The reciprocal tariffs were only on 75 countries or so. Those are on a 90-day pause. And we'll see how that plays out. But keep in mind that that does not include the emergency border tariffs on Canada, Mexico, and China. It also does not include the 232 tariffs on aluminum, steel, automobiles, and automobile parts. I have talked about the differences between 232 tariffs, the emergency border tariffs, the reciprocal tariffs, and the 10% tariffs in previous videos. In fact, last week I did a very thorough discussion. Um, but if you have some questions about those, go ahead and put them over here in the comments, and I'll be happy to address them for you. Uh, the uh, There was an interesting discussion about aluminum in particular and recycled materials. So let me just share some of the notes that came out from that. In the case of aluminum, Canada imposed a 30 billion Canadian dollar on steel and aluminum on the U.S. The EU had proposed a 21 billion EU on the, but then put it on hold through this 90-day. But it's hanging out there. The EU could push that one. But these retaliatory measures do not include recycled aluminum. Um, and then the question got asked, well, what when they say recycled material, are they talking about the pieces of aluminum that folks like you and I have brought into the scrapyard, and they're all in a big bin or a truck or a container? What if that aluminum has been melted down into secondary ingots, secondary aluminum, right? They've thrown it into a furnace, they've melted it down. It's technically still just recycled aluminum, but it's been processed. The belief is that once it's been processed in any way, once work has been applied to the material, that it would be considered not scrap anymore and therefore taxed. Certainly, if the aluminum, like aluminum cans was melted down and turned into aluminum cans, that would be the product, and whatever the code HTS code is for that product, it would get appropriately tariffed. If aluminum scrap is turned into secondary aluminum and then put into sheets of aluminum that are shaped to go on a car or an airplane or a whatever, that would logically get scrapped. Um, but there is still some question about if it's just melted into an ingot and that ingot moves across the border, would that get tariffed? The discussion between the large scrap yards that do a lot of moving between borders, basically it was, well, it's going to depend on what HTS code you're shipping it under and how careful the border patrol agent, the customs agent is, and if they thoroughly understand themselves. Because remember, it's the stuff enters the U.S. at a port, and then an agent, a human being, is looking at the manifest. They're probably not going to open the container, although they do sometimes open containers and do inspections. Um, they're going to look at the manifest, and they're going to look at what's called the HTS code. That's that code we talked about last week that says this is what this is. And then they're going to go look at a chart, and they're going to say this is what it's going to cost you. But it really relies on a human being to validate what they're being told. And they're using computers to track all the manifests and things like that. We all know that mistakes happen, sometimes intentionally. So you don't know for sure how this is going to be handled. So there's those aspects of what goes on at the border. Um, I also thought it was interesting because one of the questions came up. It's like, well, if we have these retaliatory um, tariffs on the U.S., what about scrap material, especially going to China? And they put up an interesting chart that showed scrap materials going to China. Copper was huge. I mean, huge by far, like 2.75 trillion dollars or something like that. I mean, just an amazingly huge number compared to other recycled materials. Plastic and electronics and tires, zero. All right. That's because China stopped bringing them in. And then there was some ferrous and some paper that was, very low, like very, we're talking $100 million or something like that in those recycled materials. So the copper, recycled copper, is the largest single export of recycled materials to China. So now I know there are some of you are probably thinking, yeah, but they've got ways around that with electronics and plastics and stuff. They go down to Singapore and then come up the back, a back door into China, or they illegally import it. But the numbers are so small anymore that they really don't count compared to copper. There was that part of the discussion going on as well. And Mike brings up a really good point here. Um, it How do you confirm that an ingot is from recycled product and not virgin product? And it's a really good point, Mike. I would suspect that um, the easiest way would be you hit it with a gun, like an XRF gun. You're going to have some alloy of aluminum. There's always going to be some contamination from in recycled aluminum. And so if it's analyzed, they'll see some percentage of other materials in the aluminum that would differentiate that ingot as recycled aluminum versus virgin aluminum, which would be a lot more pure. That's the way I would think that, if somebody was going to take the time to try to figure it out, that's how they could do it. Uh, so, um, yeah, but it's a very good question, right? Because would they even take the time to do that? That's a very good question. Now, here was another issue that came up that in this REMA discussion that I was not aware of. So I'm glad they talked about it because this is another very interesting twist. And we may hear more about this moving forward. So the current U.S. administration is trying to find ways to also push more shipping onto U.S. flagged vessels. They want to help build up the U.S. shipbuilding industry and the U.S. merchant marine. So they will be, and I don't know what the status is on these, the timing here. So I'll try to do some more research and see what I can learn before next week on this. But it looks like there's going to be a $1 million fee, not a fine, but a fee, and it's going to be a port call fee that will get applied to um, every landing by a Chinese shipper. So every time a Chinese shipper brings in a consignment, a shipload of product, that shipper will get charged $1 million. The other fee that they're talking about is a $1.5 million fee on every port call of a Chinese owned vessel. Um, or excuse me, a Chinese manufactured vessel. So regardless of what flag it's flying, if it was made in China, there would be a $1.5 million fee applied to that port call. So you can see how that fee would then get distributed amongst all of the goods that are in that ship. So imagine great big old container ship shows up. The shipper if they're Chinese, they get a $1 million fee that they have to pay. So naturally, that means they're going to be dividing up that fee amongst the various companies that have material that is shipping on that. Would it be per container, per weight? I don't know how that's all going to play out. I'll do some research over the week and see what more I can come up with on that. But I thought that that was a very interesting approach to try to push to have more product shipped on U.S. ships, so that it supports the U.S. shipbuilding industry and the U.S. merchant marine. More on that as that one plays out. Um, I tell you, it's an interesting thing. One of the problems that we're going to run into is, well, we've shut down a lot of shipyards. Um, and so there just aren't that many places to build ships in America. I remember this from my days in the Navy. That was always a huge issue that we wrestled with when I was stationed at the Pentagon. There was always a review of American shipbuilding, our ability to build U.S. ships and submarines. There's a reason why, even though it costs a lot of money, we make sure that we have at least two places where we can build U.S. submarines. We don't want to ever be in a situation where the bad guys could take out the only shipyard that builds submarines. So you always want to have at least two. Same goes for shipyards that build our warships, and a lot of those shipyards, they're the same place that they build commercial ships. So it's a very interesting discussion to have. It's an important one from the perspective of U.S. defense, and you can recognize where the if a shipyard is building commercial ships and military ships, it means that it's not as expensive to the Defense Department because the Defense Department isn't carrying all of the cost for keeping the shipyard open. All right, so I just wanted to throw that one out there as another interesting wrinkle in what's going on in the world as it affects our recycled materials. Now, it is time to head over to Ireland. So, if you have autoplay enabled, you will be automatically redirected to Ireland. If you do not have autoplay enabled, please go up to your YouTube search, enter in Scrapping Irish, and join us over in Ireland with our good friend Scrapping Irish. You never know where his stream is going to take us. You never know who's going to be up on the panel. And we can even carry on some of these discussions over there as well. All right, everybody, let's head on over to Ireland. I'll see you over there.